Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to paint this cute little iris card. Not really a card, I guess. It's just a small piece of paper. I think it's around 4 inches by 8 or 9 inches long. And this is kind of a fun little size to do flowers on because, it's kind of long and skinny already. And it's not a big deal. It's a small piece of paper. The paper is the Rains 100% cotton paper by Micador, which is a wonderful Australian company. So if you are in Australia, check them out. They're a division of Koh-i-Noor, I think, but they are local to Australia and their prices may be more affordable for you. And I have a significant amount of people that watch from Australia, and you guys have to pay so much for stuff. And whenever I find a brand that's like, it's in Australia and it's a good price, I like to recommend it to folks that live there. I don't think it's like worth going out of your way for because we have a lot of other wonderful cotton papers available to us, like the Meeden 100% cotton or the Bao are wonderful alternatives to Arches if you're looking for a good deal. But I just wanted to mention that anyway. So I'm doing my sketch with a colored pencil. This is kind of like, I would say kind of like a plummy purple color, almost like a burgundy purple color. And you can use whatever brand of colored pencil you like or watercolor pencil. I did use a watercolor pencil because I wanted it to kind of just melt into my design. And I'm using that plummy purple color because it's a complementary color to yellow. But if it does blend in a bit, it's just going to go to kind of that golden neutralized warm brown color, which I think would work really well. If you look at the reference photo I have on screen and you look in the shadows and the edges, you do see that kind of like, it's almost like a brownish gold color. Now I'm experimenting with quinacridone gold paint by Daniel Smith. I have a pan of the old version. Thank you, Paula, for sending me your stash of Daniel Smith to try, and a pan of the new Quin Gold, which actually is being replaced again, I think, because the colors the new Quin Gold is made out of are being discontinued. I still think there's plenty there. There's plenty left, but yeah, it can feel like a game of whack-a-mole these days, trying to keep up with discontinued pigments and stocking up if it's something you rely on. But here's the thing. I've got to say that I don't chase the discontinued pigments. I don't worry about what brand of watercolor I'm using most of the time. And I've had the great fortune to be able to try out so many brands of watercolor paint. And when you're talking about professional level watercolor paint, I find the more different brands I try, the less picky I am and the less I feel like I have to have one brand over another. I honestly think if you are to, wherever you are in the country, in the world, whether you're in America or England or Australia or India, wherever you are, I think the best bet is to find whatever kind of legacy brand you can find or whatever artist quality, professional quality paint you can find that is either produced locally or easily obtainable locally. That's going to give you really, I think the difference between professional brands of paint is so minuscule that your best bet is to go with whatever's local and affordable. And then if there's like a special color you want from another brand, because maybe it granulates more, or maybe it just has a certain glow that you like, or it uses a pigment that you like that your local brand doesn't offer, then buy a tube of that. But I think recently there's been so much emphasis put on this rare color, that rare color, this is discontinuing, this is precious, this is great, that we kind of forget that the base level of professional watercolors are actually pretty good, and you can spend all of your creative time chasing down the best paint that you have no time to actually paint. And as someone who reviews watercolors and other art supplies, I can find myself getting bogged down with that. And I imagine that hobby painters or painters that maybe they don't do it for their living, but they do it for their passion. They do it to make a good life for themselves. They paint because it brings so much joy and happiness to them, can fall prey to that. I've got to find the best paint because if I only have an hour a week to paint, I want to paint with the best. I want the best. I want to have the most fun, the most enjoyment. And I'm only going to have the most enjoyment if I find that perfect paint. And that is a dangerous road to go down because honestly, you can spend so much time obsessing about the colors you don't have, the paint that you don't have, that you ignore the beautiful things you have in your stash already. You are going to get far more enjoyment and you're going to learn how to be a better artist much quicker if you paint with what you have and then add to a tube at a time as needed. And that may sound funny. You may be like, well, Lindsay, you try all these wonderful things and they're so tempting and I want to try them too. And there's nothing wrong with trying new brands, especially if you need a certain color or you're running out and you want to try something else. But, and I speak to the choir here. I'm speaking to myself. I could be talking to myself in the mirror as I say this. But if you have 4 or 5 palettes that are good on your shelf from brands that provide reliable, wonderful paints, and you're searching for that next hit, because really I think that's what it boils down to. And I say this looking at myself, we can get very addicted to the finding, the acquiring, the looking for that next great product that we haven't tried yet, that we kind of forget about what we already have and we ignore what we already have. And when we're spending more time looking at paint online, we're spending more time researching paint, spending more time swatching paint, spending more time thinking about paint than we actually do painting. That's where we've kind of gone a little off balance. And that's where I find that I go off balance. So I just want to put that out there because there is so much online about finding this great new thing and that great new thing. And oh my gosh, this is wonderful. We got to try this. And oh, that's even better. We got to try that. That we forget that probably the best supplies out there we already have, or we already have a version of the best quinacridone gold or lemon yellow or an ultramarine blue. That going on these quests for new and better is a fool's errand in a lot of cases. And I've had the kind of my painting here going up. This painting took me about 15 minutes or so to paint. I did speed it up a little bit just because I don't know, I feel like it can be a little boring to watch it in real time as you're watching the brush hover and like, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? But basically I was just painting to try out those 2 Quin Golds. I was also adding it with the older paints that I had. This is all Daniel Smith that I'm using here. Daniel Smith is a fine brand of paint. I don't think that it's any better than, say, M. Graham. You're going to have your preferences. Some people love Sennelier. If you have to do layering and glazing, Sennelier is so beautiful for that. Your paint will just glow. You can't overwork it with Sennelier, it seems like. I really love M. Graham. Do I love M. Graham because it's a better quality paint, or is it because it's the first professional range of paint I ever invested in? So it has that nostalgic place in my heart. I really think it's a combination of the two. For granulating colors, if I want to buy something that's specifically a granulating color, I think Schmincke does the best ones. But I also was perfectly happy with my DIY granulating set that I made by just pulling the paints I already had in my stash that happened to granulate. There's new, exciting, but better, maybe not. And I want this video to be both inspiring, hey, let's paint an iris, but also I want it to be inspiring as in, hey, look, here's somebody that's tried almost everything and she's saying that what I have in my stash is just as good. It's just fine. I can use that too. Sometimes I think we just need somebody to give us permission to use what we have and get off the treadmill a little bit. And when I'm saying this to you, I'm saying it to myself, because I had to go on a, and I do this about once or twice a year. I have to take like a month and be like, I'm not buying any new art supplies. And I even consider like art supplies for my business in that. Like I'm not buying, if I get some great idea that I want to buy some full sheet labels for, or I want to buy these new pens for, I consider business art supplies as well on these no buys. I'm like, no, you're going to use what you have. You're going to make it work. Put it in a list, put it in a shopping cart for later. If you still want it in a month and a half, whenever your no art supply buy has been used up, then you can go get it. I don't really advertise my art supply no buys too much. I mean, I'll talk about it in Sat Chat and stuff, because I feel like it is a little bit disingenuous where I have so much. And I work with companies that also, if you're making a video or you're doing a class for a company, you have to use their products. So there's always an influx. So I feel disingenuous. It's definitely not as restrictive as it would be for someone who doesn't have a huge stash or who doesn't work as a designer or painter for hire, for instance. So obviously, you're probably rolling your eyes being like, yeah, Lindsay, you have everything. And that's the thing. Yes, I do have everything. Do I need to be trying all these different brands? No. I mean, I love to review brands that people request, but I think sometimes we all need to kind of take a step back, take a breath and think, okay, do I need to go buy that thing, or can I, and wait for the thing to arrive and have all that anticipation? Or could I just go to my studio, find something that will work and paint today? Do I need to, can I use this 20 minutes I have right now to paint? Like I did this painting took less than 20 minutes. or do I want to spend 20 minutes browsing online to try to find the next best thing that will spark my curiosity? Because if you are always relying on buying something new to spark your creative muse, then the things in your stash are going to go bad. They're not going to get used up. They're going to dry up. They're going to go bad. And they're going to make you feel shame. And I don't want you to feel shame about anything you've bought. I want you to feel joy about the things that you've bought and use them. And sometimes it just means taking a little break from like the default being, let me see what's new, to let me go see what I can do with my stash. And it does feel kind of silly to say this out loud. I'm sure there's a lot of people like, yeah, duh, you use what you have. That's what you bought it for. But, it's so easy to get caught up. It's so easy to get caught up in all the new, fun, beautiful things that we forget to use the beautiful things that we were caught up with last year when we had to have. I'm doing a little fine lining here because sometimes if I'm not happy with my painting, which is a lot, quite frankly, I will go in with a brown or a black pen, and then I usually love it so much more, or a colored pencil or something. So don't be afraid to rummage through your drawers, find out what you have, and throw it at a painting you're not super happy with. And in fact, I wasn't even necessarily going to post this, but a viewer asked for it, then I was like, oh yeah, I guess it's not that bad. I looked at it today and said, oh, that's not that ugly. I can post it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the pep talk. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration, and I hope it makes you pull out your supplies and paint a little bit today. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.